So good afternoon. This afternoon I'm talking to Aman Singh from Aventus Partners. Welcome, Aman.
Hi Mel, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this discussion with yourself.
No problem, it's my pleasure, my pleasure. So obviously you are a business leader. You manage a firm of accountants, and you've probably worked with some great leaders along the way. So what does great leadership look like to you?
So Melanie, for a professional service firm, and I think this would apply to any business and probably the non-business environment itself as well. Great leadership for me would characterize someone who's got both professional will as well as humility. I think both things are very, very important. By professional will, I mean someone who has a deep and unwerving desire to create an enterprise that can continue to survive for years to come. Mm-hmm. So driven to do whatever it takes to create benefit for the organization. Mm-hmm. The focus is the organization before anything else. And that includes the people within the organization. So that would probably be the first and foremost part of their nature and characteristic. The other characteristic of someone having great professional will would be someone who's willing to learn, continuously learn and grow and help everyone around them to also grow and succeed. This is someone who's trying to build an organization that has lots of successes. So basically the team needs to develop alongside them, and it is based on trust and relationship and collaboration. By humility, I think, and this is again a personal opinion, it'll be someone who's humble, who's modest, who has inspiring standards within the organization and outside as well. And this could be both on a personal level as well as a business level. And someone who is willing and always able to take responsibility for failure, and someone who is happy to share or even give credit for all successes to others. So this is someone who is not greedy, not just in the financial sense, but also in their professional environment to take credit for all the successes themselves, shunning the efforts made by the team for their success to truly happen. So I think for me, those two are very, very important. Humility, probably number one, I think, and then the professional will, because you need grit to succeed, whatever the size of the business that may be. And some of my favorite leaders, both within the business world and the professional world, and even on a personal level, which is non-business environment, with people who are humble. From the Nelson Mandelas to some of the great business leaders of today.
They sound like some great combinations there. Thank you. So in terms of the term self-leadership, how do you interpret this and how do you practice it?
Self-leadership for me would encompass someone who is continuously willing to learn, wanting to learn, someone who is going on to a mindset where they are ready to be ready to learn their craft, hone their skills and keep developing themselves so that they can be ready or willing to be ready for the next job that comes through. Self-leadership in my mind would entail a thirst for knowledge, I think. Uh, there would be a willingness to let go, and some sort of goal setting and monitoring of those goals. So those would be three key areas for anyone who wants to go down the path of creating self-leadership for themselves. Knowledge being the first one, a willingness and enthusiasm to learn. And within my own business, which is a fairly small business, I have sort of created an objective for myself to be there to train everyone from the leaders in the team to the young trainees who just join our firm every year. And in order for me to meet that objective, I need to continuously improve myself, better myself, if I have the desire to help people improve themselves. So that thirst for knowledge is, I think, paramount for self-leadership. The other essential, I think, personally for me, would be to have goals, both personal and business. And I think in today's world, business and the personal lives are quite intertwined. There is that responsibility on both sides. And for both, you need to have goals that you set, and you then monitor those goals. And this could be something that needs to get continuously changed as life, as you age, as you live your life, as new challenges come into business or your personal lives. But having that vision, possibly even having sort of mind maps on both sides, where you set targets and goals for yourself, and then you monitor yourself against those. And finally, it will be the willingness to let go so that you can focus on the most important things that one needs to achieve. And that also requires courage and trust in the people. And if this is the business environment, we'll call it delegation. And for me, that's very, very important, because as being a self-leader, I need to be able to delegate responsibilities to my fellow colleagues, collaborate with them in order to actually not only build their confidence in their abilities, but also to share the success with them. So those three things would be the most important for being a self-leader. And I think on a more philosophical level, I would say that one needs to have knowledge of your personal objective of life, knowing what do you want to achieve in life, you want to be remembered for. And I think the true metric of anyone's life lies in being able to touch as many people and helping them try to grow and try to develop and try to succeed. And I think that has given me personally the maximum amount of happiness and I think self-worth. For me, that would be, I think, the word that I would describe for myself. It gives me more self-worth knowing that I have an objective where I can touch other people's lives and help them become better people.
Right.
Trying to achieve that in itself, I need to always focus on myself and see how I can better myself. So I don't know whether that answers the question.
That's a great answer. It's a great answer.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. So I know that you are the head partner in your firm, and you've got a number of staff that you lead. So what signs of leadership do you look for from members of staff? So either if they're, ready for promotion or just ready to, I guess, take on additional responsibilities.
So I think the first and most important characteristic that I look for is that there is an ability to care and care for each other, and also to care for the clients. So that person must be willing to stand shoulder to shoulder. It doesn't matter where they are in their career path. could be a trainee, to some of our senior leaders in the team. They must be willing to sacrifice themselves almost, like someone in the army would do, be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with their colleagues, help wherever it's needed. So that's, I think, the most important. And there's also got to be that care for your client. And that care would mean that you're delivering on time, you meet your promises, uh, you take responsibility for your actions, and you're accountable within your team and outside to the clients themselves. So, and that characteristic, is quite evident as you start to interact with each other. You can actually see who is willing to get up and put the hands up for helping another colleague as and when required, and the ones who would shirk away from that, who would only focus on their work, get that done, and probably leave and not be able to add that extra bit for their colleagues. Another thing that I'm looking for, a little bit harder, is grit. And that grit is important because we are a small organization. And I think it really doesn't matter the size of the organization, but if you're gritty, and by gritty, I mean willing to, dust yourself when you fall, mm-hmm. have that positive mindset to be able to not give up. And we are accountants, so we always have lots of challenging battles to deal with on behalf of clients and internally within our own resources. There's always that need for grit. And that, I think, is a defining factor. And that develops over a period of time. There'll be people who will fail the exam as long as they're willing to work hard and, achieve those obstacles. Mm-hmm. That gives me the indication whether they are there for the long haul or not. Mm-hmm. And our profession is quite rigorous and exacting that way. So you need to have that positive mindset and grit in you to succeed in our profession. Yeah. And finally, I think it would also be where someone is willing to learn, that love for knowledge, because in our profession, we need to continuously learn, whether it's the tax rules or the changes that are coming in the auditing environment. Every year there's new rules that need to be followed. And if you're not willing to, or don't have that love for knowledge, you can't really progress in our profession. So I think all those three things are very, very important, probably equally important. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm looking for within the team.
Right, right.
Okay.
Now, obviously, we've been through lots and lots of changes over the last 3 or 4 months, and we've probably got more changes to come that we've not encountered yet. So what changes in working practices do you envisage in the next 12 months and beyond?
The last few months have been unprecedented. They've been, no one could have ever foreseen the challenges that have happened. And I think the biggest change for a lot of us is, working from home. And I would say an extension of that would be flexible working and virtual working, virtual teams working together with each other. And I think those are the signs of time, and I think this is going to stay. Had you spoken to me 4, 5, 6 months back, even 4 months back, and said, would you be willing to let your colleagues work from home? And I would have probably said no. Not that I don't trust them. We've got a great team, and with virtually, with majority of the people I've worked with for a number of years. So there is a huge amount of trust between ourselves. But I was, I'm probably old school, I think, when I say that I prefer, working with people alongside each other. But I think this is going to be the new norm. Luckily for us, working from home worked out very well. We were set up, the firm was set up on the basis that we could work remotely from anywhere, although that had never been tested.
Mhm.
As soon as, even before lockdown, we made a decision that we'll all work from home for safety. And from probably the second week of March, we've all been working quite effectively and efficiently from home. It comes with its own challenges, but I think it's been seamless for our clients. And uh, I've been, apart from being a little lonely and little desperate times with the IT, everything seemed to have gone very well.
Mhm.
Um, with flexible working, again, this was something that has come out of this unprecedented times. We have a number of young mothers, uh, team members that have got young families. So we had to accommodate everyone. And that would mean that people could work at whatever time suited them, as long as uh, the client deliverables did not get affected. And if they were going to be affected, then at least we communicate with them early enough and manage expectations. I think those two are things that I think will continue to stay with us uh, as we forge ahead in this new times. A number of very large companies are already doing this. I know Google and some other large organizations have said that everyone's going to work from home. There will be flexible working, and this is going to continue till the end of this year and may continue into the future as well. But I think that's there to stay. Uh, a lot of these things will come with their own challenges. People are talking about productivity, which hasn't affected us, but I think that's going to be a challenge. Uh, Monitoring team members and the deliverables. But I think there are IT tools that you can use, and we are trying to look at those ourselves. But those are going to be some of the challenges. And it's also about keeping all the team members involved. I think as we are, start to work remotely, there may be people who feel a bit more vulnerable. Not everyone is an extrovert. There are some introverts who may come on calls, may not be able to express themselves, may not be able to communicate enough. And their well-being would be, I think, very, very important.
Mhm.
So we may need to have more empathy and more compassion for certain members as they feel a little isolated. And finally, I think there may be a challenge when you have new people joining the team. So we are now interviewing for our trainees for this year. And I'm not sure how we're going to sort of get them not only their early learning, but also, get them to understand our culture, our business ethics, our way of working. So this is going to be a big challenge. Well, and I think this is there to stay as well.
Mm.
So getting that comfort from a Zoom interview may not happen, or a Skype interview doesn't give me that feel. So let's see how things go.
Yeah. Great. There's a number of different things there. So how will you manage yourself and others through this time?
I think right at the outset, there was that concern. I was a little nervous. And in the first couple of weeks, I was quite nervous about how this is going to go, how this is all going to pan out. No one really knew. Those were early days.
Mm.
Things have settled down, and I think the two things that counted for me more than anything else were, one would be to be flexible uh, with the team members. So everyone was learning. This was something new for everyone. So we were having to be very, very flexible with each other. And more importantly, communicating with each other and communicating with our clients. So that was, I think, key. The next thing was being compassionate. So there were a couple of our team members who were struggling with the IT, were struggling with working from home due to their family environments, either where they the accommodation they had or the facilities they had, and trying to make sure that we were there to support each other. And other than that, I think it's being positive and, looking forward to a better tomorrow and having that message going through the ranks. These are unprecedented times. A number of our clients are facing the challenges that we are all hearing in the media, and being there for them with a positive mindset, saying, yeah, no problems, we can get through this, like we've done in the past. So I think positivity, flexibility, and communication. I think those are the three things that I've been working on.
Right. So what skills do you perceive will be most helpful generally to help us through this period?
I think I might repeat myself here, and I think it's going to be communication. I think both internally and externally, having those channels open and willing to listen to your clients. A lot of times you can't really help as such, but being there with a listening ear is more important than anything else. And then communicating to internally to within the team as well as with clients externally. The everything from the government, the facilities that the government is providing businesses with, being there to support them with their cash flow challenges. So communication is very, very important, and in some cases it would almost be on a weekly basis. Internally, I've tried to communicate with the team twice a week with every member of the team. With certain teams, it's been a lot more. We were extremely busy. Our busiest period is between Jan and June. So we were in the middle of our busy season when the lockdown happened. And I think it was important that we had communication channels open, and that's helped us to be resilient and deliver on time. As things come back to normalcy, I think that communication and that empathy would be, would have to remain. That would be very, very important. So, and I think you need to be courageous and brave. The next 12 months, no one knows how the business turns. So I think there will have to be courage. Courage would be another important aspect of all of our characteristics.
Right. So thanks, Aman. It's been really useful hearing your insights today. As you say, none of us know exactly what's going to happen, but having a bit of that courage and flexibility is surely going to stand us in good stead. So,
absolutely. Thank you, Mel. Thanks a lot.
Okay.